Knowing the signs and symptoms of heart disease and a heart attack can help save a life. Heart attacks are serious medical conditions. Therefore, it is important to learn the signs and symptoms of a heart attack. In today's program, Dr. L Saravanan, Director, Institute of Cardiac Sciences, Bangalore Baptist Hospital, will discuss how to be heart healthy. This will be a focus session on lifestyle modification to reduce risk of heart disease. This session will principally focus on diet, exercise, stopping smoking. In addition, we will also be discussing benefits of regular health checkups to identify risk factors for heart disease such as high blood pressure and diabetes and treat them effectively to avoid complications such as heart attack and stroke. Please listen to this program called Healthyliving every Tuesday at 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. on FEBA Online. If you have any questions and for more information, please write to us at info@febaonline.org or you can call or WhatsApp us to 916364252164. Thank you, Doctor, once again for joining us. And you spoke about heart attack. So what is that we have to do when someone is getting a heart attack? How do we have to respond to that situation?
Good. That's a good question because a lot of times the outcome of a heart attack depends upon what first aid the person has received at the point when they got the heart attack. Heart attack kills within minutes. So the first few minutes of having a heart attack or the first few hours of having a heart attack is so important. Mm-hmm. At home, if you think one of your relatives is having a heart attack, first things that you can do is to check their pulse. Mm-hmm. Check if they're breathing okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, and we say in resuscitation terms, there is a common algorithm. We use it, very simple algorithm, ABC. Mm-hmm. So airway, breathing, circulation. Mm-hmm. So check if their airway, that nostrils and tongue is not falling backwards. Mm-hmm. Put the patient, if they are collapsed, put the patient on one side. Okay. So that they're not falling back and their tongue is not falling back and blocking the breathing. Okay. So one side, whichever left or right side, make them lie down. Check if they are breathing, if they are taking effort to breathe, good. Then check the pulse, if there's a good pulse. Okay. If they have all the three, immediately rush them to the nearest emergency center where we can deal with it. Okay. If they don't have any of this, particularly if you can't feel a pulse, the first important thing you can do is to give a big thump in the chest. Okay. Because the common reason why you don't get a pulse in a heart attack is because the heart has gone into something called ventricular fibrillation. Okay. It means that the heart has been damaged with less blood flow and suddenly become very irritable and then it's beating like 1,000 times a minute. So it's quivering around and it is not producing sufficient blood flow as a result, which is why you're not getting a pulse. If you give a big thump in the chest, that will act very much like a shock, electric shock that you see in the movies being given. So the heart will suddenly get that big thump, stun, stop and restart. Okay. When that happens, then the blood circulation will come back again. Okay. So that is one thing you can do. The second thing you can do is we talk about this mouth-to-mouth breathing. Okay. So that's a little bit difficult to do at normal circumstances. If you have a mask, great. If not, then pinch the nostril of the person, lift the chin, and then blow into their mouth. Okay. Okay. And there are times when people have done this effectively and prevented somebody from dying, brought to us, and brought back to life. Okay. So it is something that it is very easy to do. Thumping on the chest, giving a mouth-to-mouth breath of life, few breaths like that. And then the third thing is a cardiac massage, we say. So you can put two hands straight like this in the chest and keep pumping up and down. Okay. And you do that 100 times a minute. Okay. And as quickly as possible. Okay. So squeeze the heart mechanically from your hand. Okay. Squeeze the other person's heart mechanically. And those are the ways you can resuscitate or make them stay stable until they come to the emergency department. Once they are in emergency, then we do a number of things. Okay. The commonest treatment that we do is something called primary angioplasty. So we talked about angioplasty earlier. Yes. That is elective planned angioplasty. This is emergency. So as soon as they come, within 50 minutes, of the onset of the chest pain. If I open the artery, the damage will be stopped. We can effectively reverse a heart attack. So the heart attack, and many times we have noticed that patients come with heart attack, we do this procedure within a specified time, and later on, 6 weeks later, I do the scan and I can't even see where the heart attack was. So it's completely cured. So the same angioplasty procedure, we will do it as an emergency. And most hospitals, and Baptist Hospital for that matter, we do it round the clock. So any time of the day, 365 days, we are available to do that procedure.
That's brilliant.
Good.
Thank you so much, doctor, for sharing some of the important things that we have to do when someone is having a heart attack. Thank you so much. So I just wanted to ask this question. So a lot of youngsters, or the lifestyle which people are following these days, most of the time they spend in the work areas. To say they constantly sit in front of the systems, and work life is absolutely to the peaks. So what do you think? How their lifestyle, does that affect them?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, as we started off discussing, I told you that I am alarmed in the last 20 years, and I was out of this country for about 15 years, and I came back, and before I went out of India and went to the UK, we used to, when I was a trainee, I did my MD medicine in Madurai, and at that time when I was training as an MD physician, anyone below 40 we used to disregard, thinking that, oh, this can't be heart attack. And if we did find somebody having a heart attack below 40, it will be a news all over the city. We'll be talking about it in restaurants, and we'll be talking about it. But now we are seeing more and more youngsters getting heart attack. Why is this? And there is a big urban-rural difference as well. So this is becoming an urban, westernized disease, unfortunately, due to our lifestyle. And one group that I see a lot of heart disease, particularly heart attack, is people in the IT profession. And because they're working for American and European times, and they have odd timings, they start their work by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, finish by 3 o'clock in the morning, come and then watch television till 5 o'clock in the morning, go to sleep by 5, eat pizzas, and don't do any exercise. So that lifestyle has condemned them to have heart disease. And a lot of people think that they are doing so well because they're going to the US 3 times a year and having great career. But what is the point in having a great career and having a lot of money if you don't have the health to enjoy it? So you need to have the balance. And you nailed it on saying that in India, we simply have completely lost that concept of work-life balance. And when it comes to work and healthy life, the most important thing that completely goes out is exercise. I don't see any youngsters, and if I go to the gym, it's mostly over 60s who are in the gym. There are no youngsters in the gym. Indeed, exactly. Realizing very late in life. It's good that they are realizing and coming there, but youngsters are completely not anywhere near that. So it is very important to have a very physically active time as well, spiritually as well. It's important, but physical growth and physical exercising is so important. And I tell all my patients, and then they say, oh, I don't have time. You can always make time. Okay. I don't think any IT professional is more busy than me. Okay. And I do exercise every day, morning and evening. And I do a run in the morning and go to the gym in the evening. Every single day. Every single day. It is possible, except that I have to wake up a little bit earlier and do that. And I need to make a discipline that when I get home, I don't sit in front of the television. Immediately I change and go to the gym. Okay, so it is very important to get that discipline, and once you get the discipline, you will find the time. So it's not a problem. Time is not an excuse for not doing exercise. Then they think, oh, I can't. Some of my patients say, I can't afford to go to a gym. You don't have to go to a gym. Okay, Bangalore, or for that matter, any Indian place, is full of open spaces. Go for a brisk walk, 45 minutes every day. Easy, inexpensive, very effective exercise. Brisk walking for 45 minutes.
That's right.
Okay, so these kind of exercises can be done. So mainly lifestyle changes needs to be made. And yes, you're right. And increasingly we are seeing younger people getting this. I'm very worried about it. If you had a heart attack at the age of 25 or 30, when they get to the point of 40 or 45, the heart will be weak, and it leads to a disease called heart failure, where the heart is failing to pump blood, and they become increasingly symptomatic, increasingly limited, sat on a wheelchair, can't look after themselves, becoming a burden to their family and the society. And if this carries on, in 20 years' time, we will have a big chunk of middle-aged population with this problem. So we need to address this actively. So every youngster watching this, listening to this, should understand the importance of a healthy lifestyle.
Thank you, Doctor.
Good.
So, a lot of patients come to you. So you might have noticed the difference, the change. Like, what population comes to you more, like rural or urban? The stats, how can you differentiate?
The rural population, fortunately, are still not affected by the westernization as yet. I mean, it's slowly creeping there as well, but not as yet. So they do a lot. I assume that their diet is better than ours, even though on paper ours is rich. So we go to enough fantastic restaurants and pay a huge amount and have a good meal most of the time, while they make very basic food and eat. But that basic food is healthy. The food that we are eating is unhealthy, and they do more physical activity in the rural areas, and in the urban areas we do less and less physical work. Even in my line of work, increasingly I'm sitting in front of in a consultation room for hours together, and so increasingly we are more white collared, and therefore we have a very unhealthy lifestyle. They have a more healthy lifestyle in the rural areas. So there is a big urban-rural divide. It is getting bridged very quickly, not a good idea, not a good thing, but still there is quite a lot of heart attack in the rural side as well, but urban is more, definitely.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. So now let's come to the actual point. Before the heart stroke or after the heart stroke, or these heart diseases, whatever it is, what is that proper diet everyone has to follow?
Good, that's a very good question. All my patients, and Indians have an obsession with diet. All my patients ask, what can I eat? How can I eat this? Can I eat that? Can I eat this? Meat, that, meat, this, everything. But they never follow any of this stuff that I tell them. They like talking about it. We as Indians, we like talking about diet and not following it. Okay? And I tell all my patients, dieting is so simple. And some of the youngsters and younger patients and very savvy, knowledgeable people come to me with certain designer diets. Like there is this keto diet, which is very popular now. Before the keto diet, it was paleo diet. Before that, it was Atkins diet. So there are various diets that fashions and fads come and go. I tell people that I am really against this designer diet. Why am I against it? It's not that they don't work. It is not that they don't have a scientific background to them, because there are published scientific papers saying keto diet is good. So it is not lack of science, but it is lack of practicality. How long can you maintain a keto diet? Any diet, any designer diet is only effective as long as you stick to it.
Yeah.
And most of them are so impractical that you can't stick to it.
Yeah.
And therefore, the common sense diet is the best diet. So I tell people that if you go to a restaurant and if the menu says idli and masala dosa, you know what is healthy. Okay, you don't have to be a rocket scientist. You know what which choice is healthy. So choose the healthier choice on an everyday meal. Okay, everyday meal. So it is making clever choices, simple clever choices, looking at what you eat, everything that you eat. Okay, this morning I had a choice of having an apple juice or an apple. Apple juice, the carton says it's got 78% sugar. Okay, so they don't tell you that. But if you read it, it's there. They are mandated to put it in. So it is full of sugar. So sugar is bad for your health. So it's apple juice filled with sugar.
Yeah.
So do you want to eat and drink an apple juice, or do you want to eat an apple? God gave you apple, so eat the apple. Okay. So simple things like that. So you can choose carefully. Two important things in diet: sugar, fat. These are the two things that is filled in every Indian diet. So if you cut down on sugar, carbohydrates, sugar, cut down on trans fat, very saturated fat. If you cut down on these two, that is essential, that is important. Another obsession that people always ask me is about oil. What oil can they cook in? And there is this thing about coconut oil being fantastic. In WhatsApp, you get all sorts of nonsense. You get things like pure ghee is great for your body and it's great for your health and all that stuff. And that is being driven by certain religious sects as well as a great thing to do. Pure ghee is pure cholesterol. That's what I tell my patients. So therefore, you don't want to use that. What you need is a less saturated fatty oil. So all vegetable oils, sunflower oil, rapeseed oil, linseed oil, or even our common nallanai, yellanai, those things, they are very good. Okay, those oils are much better than ghee or coconut oil, which is very saturated. So things like that. So look at every food item in your kitchen shelf and choose a more healthy option in each one of them, and you will make a healthy meal. So that is how it should be done. In a very, you used to eat the same stuff, but with less unhealthy ingredients in it.
Okay. Thank you, doctor. So, doctor, we spoke about exercises and the preventive measures, what we have to do and take care of before we get into anything like this. So, what are the other risk factors?
Yes, I mean, there are several common diseases that increases the risk of heart attack for a patient. So if a patient comes to me, I do a little mental calculation and I evolve with something called pre-test probability before I even ask for any test. Just by chatting with you, like we are talking now, I just chat with the patient, discuss their clinical history, discuss about what are all the problems, and then make a mathematical assessment of what is the risk, what is the assessment, what is the pre-test probability. How do I arrive at that pre-test probability? There are three things I look into. One is obviously we discussed about in terms of what is their diet and exercise and all that stuff like, and how convincing is their symptom. And the third thing is what are the other coexisting conditions that can increase the risk of a heart attack. One of them is high BP, high blood pressure. A lot of people don't even know that they have it. Okay, it's a silent killer. Until the high BP damages them with either a heart attack or a brain stroke, they don't even know that they have it. And unless you check regularly for it, you won't know it. When I was in England, we did a very simple thing. We put 3 automated blood pressure monitors in 3 supermarkets. And then randomly, anyone who was walking into the supermarket, they can get a check. They can get a check. It wasn't costing us much. And they all got a check and they wrote their value. We wrote the values down. And after a week, we went and looked at those values. According to that, in Britain, where they go to their GPs regularly and where their local physician, GP, is mandated by the government to look at these values regularly, 22% of the people had BP readings higher than the normal. And they didn't know about it. So it is a very common disease which people don't know they have unless you check for it. So it's very important to check for high blood pressure. The other thing is diabetes. Diabetes is very common in India. And it is very common in India because we have something called insulin resistance, which is unique to Indian population. It's a genetic thing because our forefathers worked 14 hours in the land and ate very little. We do the opposite. So we do very little physical activity, but we eat a very westernized rich food. So our body, our genes are not designed to deal with it. So we develop insulin resistance. So our body may have some insulin, but it won't work. So therefore, we will not be able to deal with high sugar load as well as a Westerner or as well as anyone else. So we tend to be at a high risk for developing diabetes. So diabetes and high blood pressure. The third is elevated cholesterol levels. So these 3 things can be easily and simply checked with blood test and a BP check. So very basic test. BP check can be done at home. Blood sugar can be done at home. Done at home. And cholesterol can be done in a nearby laboratory anywhere. Okay, so these 3 tests, if people keep doing it periodically and checking, it reduces risk.
So you spoke about diabetes and the cholesterol checkup and blood pressure. So is it hereditary?
I mean, most of these diseases indeed are hereditary, particularly heart disease and coronary heart disease, the heart attack. If one of your family member, particularly close, we call it first degree relative, brother, sister, father, mother, that kind of relationship, first degree relatives. If one of them have had a heart attack before the age of 50, that puts you at a phenomenally high risk of a heart attack. Okay, so it is genetic. And unfortunately, you can't do much about it because we call it a non-modifiable risk factor. But once you have that history, it's so important that you get checked out regularly. Okay, so once you have that, if there is someone in the family, and I would recommend everyone, any young person who has had a heart attack, I tell all the family members, go and get your blood pressure checked, go and get your sugar checked, get your cholesterol checked, lead a healthy life, look after your health. And also sometimes we even do a screening treadmill test, and then check if they do have the problem.
Okay, thank you, doctor.
Okay. In conclusion, today's discussions focused on how to maintain a healthy heart. In that respect, we discussed various aspects of heart disease as well as certain interventions that we could do early on to try and avoid developing a heart disease. I would like to summarize and say that there are three aspects that we need to focus on. One is diet. Diet is exceptionally important. Everybody understands that. But unfortunately, not a lot of us follow a strict diet, and therefore it is very important to focus on what we eat. In terms of diet, we discussed the benefits of having a balanced diet and a reasonable and practicable diet schedule that's healthy to the heart. In that, we discussed the benefits of avoiding very high carbohydrate intake and also reducing saturated fat intake. Any diet that you follow should be practical and should be relevant to your everyday meal that you are able to take and that you are interested in eating. So it is very important to design your diet towards your desire to what you want to eat, but it must be balanced as well as healthy. So that is one of the aspects we discussed in great detail today. The next thing is about exercise. A lot of us work very hard, but we do not take time off to do exercise. And in that, we discuss the benefits of aerobic exercise. And aerobic exercise is very simple to do, easy to do, and very beneficial to your heart. You don't need to become a gym member, you don't need anything posh or expensive. A brisk walk in the park for 45 minutes in the evening, or bicycling for 15 to 30 minutes, or if you are able to, about half an hour of swimming. These are good exercises that will keep your heart healthy. Please do focus on this, and this is something that every member of the family can do, and maybe it could be a fantastic time to do a family time together in the park where everyone could go together for a brisk walk. The third thing we talked about today, and the most important thing of all the three, is the need to regularly check to see if we have any risk factors for heart disease. We discussed that Indians as a genetic race are at very high risk of developing heart disease, and in that respect, we ought to, particularly those who are very intensely involved in their activities, work activities, who are in stressful professions, it is very important to have regular checkups. Regular checkups include testing for diabetes, testing for high blood pressure, testing for high cholesterol. These are the three important things that lead to heart disease, and they are very silent. They do not cause any symptoms until they cause a havoc, a major problem. And therefore, it is very important to test for these three conditions: diabetes, high blood pressure, and high cholesterol on a regular basis. When we do these three regularly, we can prevent heart disease, and as we discussed, prevention is far better than cure, and therefore I would request all of you to spend a lot of time focus on how to lead a healthy life, a healthy heart.
Thank you so much for sharing a lot about heart diseases and the diet and the preventive measures what we have to take. So I hope this talk will help a lot of our audience and the listeners.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.